I learned my father's mood by the sound of his footsteps. There was a boy named Eli who used to count footsteps, not because he was curious, because he needed to know what kind of mood his father was in before the front door opened. 3 slow footsteps meant drunk. Fast footsteps meant angry. Silence was somehow the worst. By the time Eli was 8 years old, he could identify his father's mood before the keys even touched the lock. And somehow, that felt normal to him. His little sister Nora thought it was a game. Whenever headlights appeared outside their apartment window, she'd whisper, "Which dad is it tonight?" Eli would listen carefully, then answer quietly, "Don't talk tonight, okay?" And she always listened. Because Eli was only 8, but in that house, he was already someone's protector. Their apartment sat above a laundromat that smelled like bleach and hot dust. The walls were thin enough to hear strangers coughing through them at night. Their mother worked double shifts at a diner across town. She left before sunrise and came home exhausted enough to fall asleep at the kitchen table. Most nights, Eli made dinner, which usually meant microwave noodles split between 3 bowls so Nora wouldn't notice he gave her the biggest portion. Their father used to be different, according to their mom. Before the layoffs, before the drinking, before life turned him bitter. But Eli never knew that version of him. The version Eli knew punched holes into doors when football teams lost. The version Eli knew apologized the morning after with tears in his eyes and promises that sounded sincere enough to hurt. The version Eli knew would kneel beside him and say, "I'm trying, son." And somehow that made it worse. Because monsters were easier to hate than broken people. One winter night, Nora accidentally spilled orange juice on the living room carpet. Their father stared at the stain in silence, then exploded. The shouting started instantly. Nora froze. Eli stepped in front of her automatically. It wasn't bravery, it was instinct. Their father grabbed Eli by the shoulder so hard it left fingerprints. "You think you're the man of the house now?" Eli said nothing. That angered him more. Their mother rushed in halfway through the yelling, still wearing her diner uniform. She pulled Nora away while trying to calm him down. And then came the sound Eli hated most. Not shouting, not breaking glass, crying. Because angry people were predictable. Crying people made you feel guilty for being afraid of them. That night, Eli lay awake listening to Nora breathe beside him. The apartment heater clicked loudly in the darkness. Then Nora whispered, "Do you think Dad loves us?" Eli stared at the ceiling for a long time. Finally he answered, "I think he wants to." Years passed like that. Careful, quiet, heavy. Eli learned how to become invisible. At school he became the mature kid. Teachers loved him. Parents praised him. Other students vented to him about their problems. Nobody noticed that 12-year-olds weren't supposed to look exhausted all the time. Meanwhile, Nora became sunlight. Loud, funny, messy. She danced while brushing her teeth, talked during movies, laughed too hard at stupid jokes. Eli secretly admired her for it. She still believed life could become better. Eli had stopped believing that years ago. When Eli turned 14, his father lost another job. That was the year things got bad enough for neighbors to start noticing. One night, there was screaming loud enough that someone called the police. Eli remembered standing in the hallway holding Nora's shaking hand while red and blue lights flashed through the apartment windows. His father sat drunk on the kitchen floor, crying while officers spoke quietly to their mother. Nora asked, "Are they taking Dad away?" Eli didn't answer. Part of him wanted them to. But when the officers finally left without arresting anyone, his father looked smaller somehow. Not dangerous, just ruined. That image stayed with Eli for years. Because hate would have been easier. Instead, he inherited something worse. Pity. After that night, their father tried harder. For a little while, he attended meetings, stopped drinking for nearly 3 months, started cooking dinner sometimes. One evening, he even helped Nora build a model volcano for school. And for a terrifying moment, they almost felt like a normal family. That was the cruel thing about hope. It made the fall hurt more. The relapse came suddenly. Eli came home from school to find dishes shattered across the kitchen floor. Their mother sat at the table, crying silently, while Nora hid in the bathroom. And their father was gone. Again. That night, Nora finally snapped. She still loves him, she whispered angrily. Why does she still love him? Eli didn't know. Years later, he would realize love and pain often grow from the same roots. But at 15, he just felt tired. By 16, Eli had a part-time job stocking shelves at a grocery store. Most of the money secretly went toward groceries and rent. His mother pretended not to notice. That hurt too, because they had become a family built entirely around pretending. Pretending things were okay. Pretending his father would change. Pretending Nora didn't cry herself to sleep sometimes. Pretending Eli wasn't slowly disappearing under the weight of responsibility. One evening after work, Eli found Nora sitting alone on the apartment rooftop. She was 17 now, older, quieter. The city lights reflected softly in her eyes. Without looking at him, she asked, "Do you ever think we were robbed?" Eli sat beside her. Of what? A childhood. The words hit harder than he expected. Because she was right. Some kids remembered cartoons and birthdays. Eli remembered monitoring alcohol levels in glass bottles. Nora remembered hiding in closets during arguments. They sat in silence for a while. Then Nora laughed weakly. "You know what's messed up?" "What?" "I still miss him sometimes." Eli swallowed hard. Because he did too. Their father drifted in and out of their lives after that. Sometimes sober, sometimes not. Phone calls at 2 a.m. Broken promises. Birthday texts sent weeks late. Eventually, their mother divorced him quietly. No screaming. No dramatic confrontation. Just exhaustion finally winning. Eli moved out at 19. Not because he wanted to. Because he needed to breathe. For the first few months, he felt guilty every time he enjoyed something. A peaceful apartment. Silence. Sleeping without fear. It felt stolen. Like happiness belonged to other people. Nora stayed with their mother while attending community college. But she called Eli almost every night. Sometimes to vent, sometimes to cry, sometimes just to hear someone who understood. And through those calls, something slowly changed. For the first time in their lives, they stopped surviving and started healing. Healing wasn't dramatic. It looked like laughing without feeling guilty, buying groceries without calculating every dollar, watching movies without anxiety, learning what normal felt like. One snowy December evening, Eli received a voicemail from an unknown number. It was his father. His voice sounded older, fragile. "Hey son, I'm at St. Mary's Hospital. Nothing serious. I just thought maybe I'd hear your voice." Eli stared at the voicemail for almost an hour, then drove there anyway. The hospital room smelled sterile and cold. His father looked smaller than Eli remembered. Gray hair, sunken eyes, tired hands. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then his father quietly said, "You got taller." Eli almost laughed at how stupidly normal that sounded. After a long silence, his father whispered, "I know I ruined a lot." Eli looked down. The strange thing was, he didn't feel angry anymore, just sad. His father's eyes watered. "I used to think being a father meant providing money. Then when I lost my jobs, I think I lost myself too." Eli said nothing, because explanations weren't the same as excuses. But for the first time, his father wasn't defending himself. He was just telling the truth. "I'm sorry you had to become an adult so young," his father whispered. That sentence broke something inside Eli, not because it fixed the past, but because someone had finally acknowledged it. Years of fear, years of protecting Nora, years of carrying responsibilities too heavy for a child. Seen. Finally seen. Eli cried quietly in that hospital room while his father stared at the blanket in shame. And for the first time in his life, they mourned the same thing. Not just addiction, not just anger, but the family they could have been. His father died 8 months later from liver failure. At the funeral, only a few people came, mostly old co-workers and distant relatives. Nora stood beside Eli wearing black gloves against the winter cold. During the service, people described their father as complicated, funny, generous, troubled. Eli realized something strange. All of those things were true. After the funeral, Nora suddenly asked, "Do you think he loved us?" Eli looked toward the gray sky for a long moment, then answered differently this time. "Yeah," he said softly. "I think he did." Nora nodded slowly, not satisfied, not healed completely, but understanding. And sometimes, understanding is the closest thing broken families ever get to peace. Years later, Eli would have a daughter of his own. One night she accidentally spilled orange juice on the carpet. The glass shattered loudly. For one horrifying second, Eli froze. The old memories came rushing back instantly. His daughter looked terrified, not of the glass, of him. And in that moment, Eli finally understood how trauma travels through generations. Quietly, patiently, waiting. But he also understood something else. It could stop with him. So Eli knelt carefully beside his daughter and smiled gently. "Hey," he said softly, "it's okay. Accidents happen." His daughter burst into relieved tears and wrapped her tiny arms around him. And as Eli held her there in the kitchen light, he realized healing didn't mean forgetting your childhood. It meant making sure someone else got a better one.